Welcome to Educator Dr. Mom TV, where I share the highs and lows of my parenting journey, as well as education, parenting, home and wellness, and life lessons that I want to teach my children for their future. Hopefully, I can inspire others along the way. Thanks for watching and subscribe to follow my journey. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you one of my recipes that I created, and it is a quick and easy shrimp scampi pasta. If you are a pasta lover, you are going to love this recipe. I make it two different ways, one with dairy and one without dairy, but today I am making it for a friend, and so I try to pack in the flavor with all of the good stuff. So let me walk you through how to make this dish. I first start with raw shrimp. These are medium size. I also use the jumbo size sometimes. The most important part with this step is to dry off your seafood. You don't want it to have too much water in it, and so I make sure that it's nice and dry. I start with about a tablespoon of butter in the skillet, and I add minced garlic to that, and I kind of just let that simmer for a little bit. Once I have the garlic simmering, I make sure that it is not too high on the fire, because the last thing you want is burnt garlic in your dish. And then I add red onions. I just chop them to maybe this size, little triangles. Sometimes I have them a little bit chunkier if I'm looking for a chunky pasta. Next, it's time to add the shrimp. And I just pour them into the skillet, and I just toss them, and I add a little bit of garlic powder in there, and then I just toss them in the garlic and the sauteed onions and just make sure that they absorb all that flavor. And then I add the shrimp scampi seasoning. This is when I add the first pack so that it gets into the shrimp as they cook. And then I add the mushrooms, and then I add the second pack when I'm making it to give it that full flavor. And so these mushrooms are pretty chunky. I always check with my guests to make sure that they like mushrooms. Everyone doesn't, but this adds just another texture of meat to it, although it's not a meat. And then I add in the vegetables. Today I'm using fresh spinach and heirloom tomatoes. I like to add some color to the pasta. You don't have to do this step if you're not into vegetables. You can just add the cream. But I like to add vegetables, and I change up the vegetables that I use. Sometimes I use kale, sometimes I use carrots that are steamed a little bit so they're not too hard. It varies. And then I add the cream. I pour it in. It varies. I'm not good with measurements, and sometimes I put too much in, as I did this time. You can see that this sauce is really loose right now. And so a trick with your sauce is to add a little bit of flour. I think this is almond flour that I used, but if you make a sauce that is too loose, if you add a little bit of flour, it'll thicken it up for you, and it'll be perfect after you let it cook for a little while. So just let this simmer and thicken up a bit. So last but not least, it's time to plate it. Although I am putting it in this tin pan today because I'm making it for our dear friends that just had a baby. And it works out great. It's such a large portion if you want to make it for someone, or if you want to make it if you're having company. We make it all the time when we have guests because it is such a large portion. It stretches out. You add garlic bread to it or a salad, and it's great. Today I use linguine noodles, but I make fettuccine noodles. Sometimes I use bow tie noodles. Any noodle will do. But you do want to toss it and make sure that you pour the sauce onto the hot noodles so that they absorb into the noodle. That's really important. So I just pour it in, and then I let it kind of soak it up for a minute, and then I gently toss it. Because those heirloom tomatoes are in there, if you toss it too much, your tomatoes are going to fall apart. And so I try to be very careful with this step. And voila, you have your shrimp scampi pasta. For a healthier version, instead of butter, I use olive oil, and instead of the heavy whipping cream, I will use a plant-based cream. Either way, it is delicious. One is just less calories, and of course I cut the sodium back too, but I hope that you can try it and enjoy it. Let me know how it turns out. Until next time, thanks for watching.